Well, now we wait. 3 o'clock this afternoon is the special announcement that has been teased and reported by many media outlets. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly expected to make it in Topeka 3 o'clock today, and that announcement is set to follow a Monday afternoon meeting of the Kansas Legislative Coordinating Council, the LCC, as we've talked about many times over the last several months at this point, which has become the key next step in now their multi-year effort to lure the Chiefs across the state line. 6:05, good morning. It's great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. The expectations today are that the Chiefs and the state of Kansas will announce everything is leaving Missouri. That's not just a stadium. That is also practice facilities, corporate headquarters, everything else, and is moving across the state line to the state of Kansas. That is the expectation for today. Now, as it's been told to me by multiple sources over the weekend, this is in many ways step one. And yes, that's true. After this, there will be county involvement. What does their role look like? There will be city involvement. What do their roles look like? All that is absolutely true. But you know and I know, local politicians are not going to get in the way if the Chiefs and the Royals, but really today's about the Chiefs, want to move to Kansas. And really, as I was thinking about it over the last 48 hours, there was something that, as this move looks like it's imminent and looks like it's set to happen, there was one thing about the whole conversation that I may have not given enough credit to. And that is the fact that anything in Missouri still required a vote. The taxpayer, the people, had to vote in Missouri to keep these teams. Because if these teams wanted to access the state money that was passed in a special session back in September, what had to happen? There had to be a local sales tax component to it. That already exists in Jackson County. That could be extended for either or both of these two teams. If the Royals want to go to Clay County, there needs to be a local sales tax component to that. And the beauty, if you want to call it that, of going to Kansas is you don't get a vote on anything. You don't. And maybe you're saying, well, we elect the politicians, and this is kind of part of their job to lure teams or businesses to our communities. I mean, you can feel that way. That's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying the beauty of Kansas, if you want to call it that, with star bonds, is that you don't have a vote on it. So they can draw a star bond district. They can make it. I mean, if what I'm hearing on these rumors of the size and scope of the star bond district is true, I mean, it will be a true abuse of what a star bond district is intended to be. And you might say, I don't care. I just want the teams here. I want to screw Missouri, whatever it might be. And maybe it's like, those of us that care about public policy actually, worry about that stuff. And maybe we're a dying breed. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But if what I'm hearing about the size and the scale of the star bond district turns out to be true, it will be an abuse of what a star bond district is intended to be. What it's intended to be is drawn in a way where you can specifically say these businesses within this district directly benefit because this new business, i.e. the Chiefs, are now here. That's what it's intended to be used for. That's how it's intended to work. If what I'm hearing is right, and we've got star bond districts going across state lines, up and down interstates and everything else, it will be a massive abuse of the district. Now, why would you care? Well, because then you're diverting state dollars away from the state. And if you think the state's not going to ask somebody else to pick up the tab, you are kidding yourself. I had somebody who worked in the Department of Commerce, a good, solid, strong conservative who worked in the Department of Commerce for many years, say to me over the weekend, like, yeah, it's cool. The Chiefs are coming here. I'm happy. But if the Star Bond District or the Star Bond idea dies with the Chiefs, I would be a huge proponent. And I said, really? Really? Tell me more. We just started talking about a lot of what we've said on the show. The concept of it is an absolute joke. And it's never a win for the taxpayer. Now, Missouri was going to give them money, too. I mean, this was going to be the case in Missouri, right? There was going to be a sales tax component. There had to be locally. There was going to be a state option as well. So both of these teams found themselves basically competing using the taxpayer to land the teams. And this is how it's been going now for several months. And it looks like today Kansas may ultimately end up on top. But Jackson County, of course, is not done fighting. Phil Levota, who has been the interim county executive for all of a few weeks now, held a press conference on Friday. And Phil Levota made it very clear that he's not done. All right? He's not done. He's continuing to push and push and push. Mark, I think there's a Phil Levota clip that's missing in there. There should be two of them if you don't mind grabbing the other one. But there are clips of Phil Levota that I've got from Friday's press conference where he was talking about, hey, I want to make sure that the people are voting and the people are having a say on potentially trying to keep the Chiefs in Jackson County.
Our proposal was to put this on the ballot and let the people of Jackson County decide to lower that in 2031 as the Chiefs being the sole member and tenants of the Truman Sports Complex.
So what he's talking about there is saying, hey, we're going to go on the ballot coming up here in April, and we'll try to get a 1/4-cent sales tax on the ballot. Lowers your tax from 3/8 cent for both teams to 1/4 cent just for the Chiefs. They make more money. They get more money directly from the taxpayer, which does not happen on the Kansas side of the state line. And then they can tell the taxpayer, hey, your taxes are coming down 1/8 of a cent. But if you're the Chiefs and if you're the Royals, this ties back to what I was just talking about. Why risk going to a ballot? Why risk going to a vote of the people if you don't have to? Why? The amount of potential psychological damage that was done last April 2024 when they got smoked on that ballot, and I believe a lot of that was driven by, obviously, the Royals, not so much the Chiefs. But there may have been a moment where they just said, you know what? I can't stand to be embarrassed like that again. So why bother? I can go across the state line. I don't really have to be held accountable to anyone from a taxpayer perspective. I got a pretty good deal. Let's keep that going. Let's realize the moment right now. There's populism on the left and the right where people are suddenly like, maybe like funding sports stadiums isn't something we actually want to do. Oh, but we can go somewhere where no one has a say in it? That's a pretty good deal, John.
Yeah, I'm not liking it. I could tell something was up. I go down to the kitchen there, and the snack machine and the pop machine are all taped off as a Star Bonds district. I don't appreciate being identified as a revenue stream.
Well, you just wait, man. That Dr. Pepper that you buy, that 16-ouncer, man.
Right.
That's going right into Clark Hunt's pocket, brother.
It's already taped off here.
I know. You just wait. Hey, we're going to be if what I'm hearing is true, we are going to be on the verge of it sitting here in Corporate Woods.
Yeah.
We're not going to be far from how they're going to draw this district. So I know it's no new taxes that get added to your bill. I understand that. Proponents have noted that for a long time. But if you're diverting revenues that would have otherwise been going to the state, what do you think happens? We have questions about who's paying for ingress, egress. What does that look like? Is that the team? Is that the counties? Is that the cities? I mean, there are still many questions. But it does look like today it is going to be the big rollout of the state of Kansas getting set to say this team, the Kansas City Chiefs, is moving all of its operations across the state line. 913-408-7957. Is the text line and is the call-in line here on KCMO Talk Radio at 614. I mean, we don't want to talk about the game, right? No, we don't want to do that, do we?
I slept through it.
Was there a game yesterday?
Tank is in full effect, baby. Let's go.
I
Top
said
10
it.
draft pick.
John, you and I picked them to lose, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I had that right from Friday.
We gave him too many points, though.
You're right, we did. I think we each said what? I think I said 17-13 loss. You said 17, or you said 21-17.
I had Mark's score in reverse. I think that was 2017.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So we were all under. I don't know about Mark's parlay there. Does it count when Minshew goes down?
It did count, but that was the only thing I got right.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's going to be a wild ride today, and we're going to have you covered start to finish here on KCMO Talk Radio. 913-408-7957. Welcome in on a Monday. Now, you think you're exhausted when it comes to this story. What about the other story that is just causing massive exhaustion? We'll dive into that. I know that's maybe not the best tease because you're like, why do I want to talk about a story I'm exhausted by? Well, because that's what we're doing to start the Monday morning. All right? We'll do it next on KCMO.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
I'm just getting the crap kicked out of me here on a Monday. I mean, I can take it. It's fine. On the text line, Pete, speaking of football, I didn't see Villanova went to a bowl game. I didn't even know they had a football team. My question is, what gymnasium do they play their home games in? Well, yes, they reached the FCS semifinals over the weekend, D1 AA, college football semifinals, and they got blown out by Eastern Illinois.
Yep.
So, thanks for thinking of me, though, on the text line. I do appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
Such a nice man.
All right. Well, let's get to this story. You're exhausted by Chiefs and Royals. Just wait till 3 o'clock today when that ball gets rolling once again. I know many of you are probably also exhausted by this story, or at least I'm exhausted by this story. But we've got a lot of Friday news dumps that happened late last week that also are going to continue for the next several days, because this week and next week, you are going to have, first off, a lot of media people, radio, TV, and whatnot, who are going to be obviously taking some vacation, typically slow news weeks. But if you want to drop some news and make sure nobody covers it, this week and next week is a great way to do it. Just so happens it's working out potentially fairly well for one or both of our professional sports teams here in Kansas City. It also was interesting to me that the Justice Department on Friday released thousands of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein on the Friday before Christmas. I'm telling you, if you don't really want stuff to get attention, then that's when you dump it. Okay? Now, I know that people are sharing far and wide photos of Bill Clinton in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and the whole deal, right? I mean, you've seen those photos, I'm sure. I've seen those photos. There's Clinton on an airplane with a woman wearing a white shirt and her face is redacted and can't be identified. He's also posing with his arm around Jeffrey Epstein on a fancy dinner. I mean, all these things are out there from over the weekend. A spokesperson for Bill Clinton said, quote, "They can release as many 20-plus-year-old photos as they want, but this is not about Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever." I'm exhausted by it all. If you think that the Trump DOJ really had the goods on what is Donald Trump's, still to this day, biggest political opponent in Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family, and they really had the goods on Bill Clinton, you think they dump it the Friday before Christmas? Really? You think that's what they would do with this story? I mean, just use an ounce of common sense here for a second. Just a little bit. So Trump's got the goods on Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein, and he says, you know what, DOJ? The Friday before Christmas, that's your time to send this whole thing out. Come on. Come on. I mean, you're looking for something that I know many of you want to be there, and maybe it is there. Maybe it is. But you know what? If Trump and his DOJ are not going to release something about Bill Clinton, then when's it ever going to come out? It's not. You know that, and I know that. We all understand what's going on here. Now, as for Trump, now, Clinton was really the story. As for Trump, there are a couple of photographs of the president of the United States. He made a few appearances in Friday's release. In one photograph, which shows a collection of photographs on a desk, there's a small photo of Trump that can be seen in an open drawer. One of his books, The Art of the Comeback, appears on a bookshelf in another photo. Another picture shows Epstein alongside a woman whose face is redacted, holding a large novelty check signed by Trump. The frame reads, "Once in a blue moon." Now, Trump, of course, has said he cut off ties long before Epstein was first arrested back in 2006. There are other celebrity photographs here as well. Epstein and Maxwell in one picture posing with Michael Jackson. That one stood out to me. But once again, what are you getting here? Photos of people that you knew were probably palling around with Jeffrey Epstein?
Talk about a bombshell.
That's it? Is that really the thing that gets you all juiced up here on a Monday? Oh, we're getting close. We're on the verge of it. I feel like we're talking about the Chiefs and the Royals when I say that. We're close. We almost got them. We almost got this thing figured out. I mean, no. No, we don't. You can sit here all day, all week, all of 2026 and wait. And wait. And wait. We're going to be disappointed. We're going to be disappointed because, as we've talked about many times before, first off, I believe that there are people who would be unfairly criticized and judged who would have had nothing to do with the heinous crimes and acts of Jeffrey Epstein, who would have been guilty by association. And I do think there has been in the Biden DOJ and the Trump DOJ an effort to understand that we do not want to drag down innocent people in this, because the public is looking for their scalps. And then are there very rich and very powerful people who also may have had some ideas to what was going on? Yeah. Yeah, I do believe that. Do I think, as sad as it is to say, the government will protect some of these people on the left and the right? Yeah, I do. I do. That's why this thing has been handled so horribly by both administrations. And it has been. And as much as it's one of those things that I sit back and I say to myself, it's not going to define 2026. It's not. It's not going to be the reason Republicans win or lose the midterms. I promise you that. It's not going to be the reason the Democrats win or lose the midterms. It is one of those things that obviously a portion of the public is understandably wanting to know more about. And the longer they do this kind of dog and pony show, release a couple of things here, a couple of things there, try to throw you a kernel here and throw you a kernel there, all it does is actually make it worse for them. I mean, that's really all they're doing. We're going to release some photos the Friday before Christmas and hope that nobody asks any questions. I mean, come on, guys. Try to make it a little less obvious, would you please? 913-4087-957. That's the text line as we get it rolling here on KCMO. On the text line, Pete, it's going to be an October surprise. No, it's not. No, it's not. If Biden's DOJ had Trump on the October surprise, it would have been done a year ago. As for the Republicans, I mean, none of these people are running for office. If you think that nasty photos of Bill Clinton is going to sink the Democrats next year when the guy's been out of office for 26 years, you're kidding yourself. Meantime, one of the nastier things from the weekend we'll dive into, I'm confused by it all, coming up next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
The 70s by Christmas, says Luke Doris. My goodness, that would be a record. Previous record is 67 on Christmas Day. So it looks like we're set to smash that per our boy Luke Doris. So we are all monitoring and watching 3 o'clock today. That is when Kansas Governor Laura Kelly is going to give a speech, share an announcement, and it's obviously expected to be about the Kansas City Chiefs and what their plans are on the other side of state line. We have Phil Levota, who is the interim Jackson County Executive, coming up on the show at 7:30 this morning. And we'll also have Blake Carpenter on at 8 o'clock. He is the Speaker Pro Tem in the state of Kansas. He's a member of the LCC, this Legislative Coordinating Council. And we'll get both of those guys on the show coming up at 7:30 for Phil Levota and 8:05 for Blake Carpenter. Do not miss it. Hang with us here all morning on 95.7 FM. So the weekend wrapped up the Turning Point USA annual conference. And this was the first time, obviously, this conference has taken place in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And all I saw was a lot of infighting. All I saw were social media clips of people basically arguing about the Jews and trying to figure out how to get more attention for their podcast. That's what I saw. I believe that Charlie Kirk would have been rolling around in his grave watching this weekend play out the way it did at Turning Point USA. There are two schools of thought here. One is, hey, this is what we got to do, and we are, conservative, right of center, whatever you want to call it. We're going to fight it out. We're going to let the best ideas win. The other way to look at this is, well, you have to have some kind of standards, don't you? There have to be at least truths that we all agree on. Because if not, you turn into the left, where men can be women and women can be men, and gender is always fluid, and whatever you want to be real is real. And that's just, I don't think, how you can run a political operation. And all I saw over the weekend was like, this guy rips that person, she rips him, he rips her, and we go back and forth. It's like, what are we doing here for the broader movement exactly? You're going into a midterm year, where Republicans look like, at least at this point, they're in major trouble to maintain the House of Representatives, and I think they'll be okay in the Senate, but still, certainly looks like the House is going to flip. And we basically have podcasters yelling at each other. Who's benefiting from that other than those individual people? How is Turning Point USA benefiting from this outside of maybe some ticket sales? Like, is Charlie Kirk really happy right now as he looks down on this event and he basically sees people fighting inside the tent? There was some weird stuff going on at this Turning Point USA conference over the weekend. I mean, Tucker Carlson, who, gosh dang, it's just sad to me what's happened here. But Tucker Carlson went totally off the deep end as usual, basically saying, stop persecuting Muslims.
What you're watching now, attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims? It's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I know there's a lot of effort to claim I'm a secret jihadi. I'm not. You should not attack people on those grounds. And you're seeing it from Republicans. What the hell are you doing? What you're doing is trying to divide the country. And I've lived through 50 years of this crap. All these fake race wars that they're always promoting. Oh, go hate each other while we loot the treasury. That's exactly what's going on. And most people are totally sick of that.
You know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of the idea that somehow if you criticize radical jihadism, that somehow you're criticizing every Muslim that's on the planet, which is just not true. But that's what Tucker Carlson just did there. And I'm watching that and I'm like, is he serious? I was looking this up just to make sure I had my facts right. The 10 most dangerous places to be a Christian in the world. Here are some of those countries: Somalia, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, Nigeria, Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan. There's a common thread there. Common thread. I know you can all pick up on it. Okay? I understand you all can pick up on it. Maybe Tucker Carlson couldn't, but the rest of us can. And that is threats from radical Muslims. Not every Muslim on the planet. That's not what it's about. But the radical nature of Muslims that obviously exists. So you've got stuff like that going on, and I'm just like shaking my head saying, is that what this event is supposed to be about? The first Turning Point USA annual conference in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death is basically people fighting inside the tent and pointing fingers at each other and trying to figure out how they're going to build their podcast following even bigger and better, because that's what I heard a lot of. That's it. And I was beyond disappointed to hear that, because it's like, guys, we all got to be swimming in the same direction here. You're going into a critical year for the party, for the country, and this is what I'm seeing. These are the highlights out of this event. I had some people say, hey, this was months ago after Charlie was killed. Hey, Pete, you got to get out there, do the show out there, and, make it a whole thing. And I thought about it. I couldn't make it work logistically for a couple of reasons. But honestly, based on what I saw, I'm glad I didn't. Because it looked to me like it was just grifter central is what it looked like to me. Now, there was one great moment, and I will give J.D. Vance a lot of credit for his speech. The vice president was basically the cleanup hitter for this Turning Point USA conference that wrapped up over the weekend. And it is very clear that Turning Point USA as an organization is going to be all in on making sure J.D. Vance is the nominee in 2028. And I am a big J.D. Vance fan. If he is the nominee, I will be more than happy. But I'm not also interested in a coronation. I like a primary. I think that's important. I believe the people who, vote should obviously have a say. So I love JD, but I also want to see a bit of a primary in the GOP. And I do believe there's going to be one, whether Turning Point USA wants there to be one or not. But JD gave a very good speech last night. And there was one clip in particular that stood out to me. When he talked about Charlie Kirk versus his assassin, Tyler Robinson. And take a listen to this clip where he compares Tyler Robinson and what he stood for versus Charlie Kirk and what he stood for.
And we might ask, what are the fruits of these people and their principles? And the answer is a man named Tyler Robinson who killed my friend. Think about it. He is everything that the far left want from our young men. He rejected the conservatism and the spirituality, the values of a small town family. He moved into a small apartment. He became addicted to porn. He became addicted to hate. And he ended up sleeping with somebody who doesn't know whether they're a man or a woman. That is the nightmare scenario, but that is the scenario that the left has actively advertised they want for American families. And the young men in the audience in particular. That is exactly why we have to fight them. Because the fruits of true Christianity are men like Charlie Kirk. The fruits of true Christianity are good husbands, patient fathers, builders of great things, and slayers of dragons. And yes, men who are willing to die for a principle if that's what God asks them to do. Because so many of us recognize that it is better to die a patriot than live a coward.
That was J.D. Vance in about a 30-minute speech last night at Turning Point USA's America Fest. So it ended on a high note. J.D. Vance was able to, I think, take a lot of the attention away from some of the infighting and the nonsense that seemed to highlight this event and this weekend. And I was thrilled about that. I was happy about that. As much as I'm not looking to coronate him just yet, I was happy about that. Because boy, did that event need it. Based on what I was seeing play out on Thursday and on Friday and on Saturday.
That was a nice move on his part to bring it all together, I guess. So that speaks to his abilities.
Exactly. And that's what he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
And you know what? He tied everything together that culturally the right has been fighting for a long time. And he used the assassination of Charlie Kirk, as tragic as it is, to highlight the differences in Charlie Kirk and what he stood for versus his alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson. We'll dive into the 6 at 6 top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. Coming up next on 95.7 FM KCMO.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
6:50, good morning. Happy Monday. We are here to kick off a Christmas week with you on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Let's do it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Well, let's start with the big news happening today in Topeka. We have a 3 p.m. special announcements from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly that is expected to involve and be about the future homes of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I guess the Royals could be part of this as well. But we know it's going to be about the Chiefs, and we know that they will be there based on what Ty Masterson, the Kansas Senate president, told us on this show exclusively on Friday morning. They will have representatives there as they are expected to lure the Chiefs across the state line. In what capacity? Well, that somewhat remains to be seen, but I'm expecting it to be stadium and practice facility related, and we'll see what happens from there. This is going to be called Step 1, is what they're going to call this. But you and I both know that if you think county officials or city officials in Johnson or Wyandotte County are going to get in the way, you're kidding yourself. Although Wyandotte County and unified government, not exactly a clean operation, but you know what? We'll wait to see how that part of it plays out. But that's what's expected today. 3 o'clock is the a special announcement from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. We'll, of course, be following here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Number 2.
Next up, one man is dead after a shooting Sunday morning in Kansas City, just east of downtown. 4:30 a.m., police responding to the intersection of Admiral and Paseo. When KCPD officers arrived, they found a man lying on the street, unresponsive, suffering from an apparent gunshot wound. EMS pronounced him dead at the scene. Police said they do not know what led to the shooting or who shot the man. KCPD is asking for you to call the TIPS hotline, 816-474-TIPS. Now, where are we at when it comes to homicides here to wrap up the year? We are trending towards our lowest homicide year in Kansas City since pre-COVID, which is great. Now, I don't want to sit here and say, hey, we're at 132 homicides. Wow, 132 people have died. But when you compare it to our highest numbers 2 years ago in 182, last year was 145, barring some tragic, unbelievably violent final 10 days of the year, we should come in obviously below last year's number, which was obviously well below the number in 2023, which was a record for Kansas City. So some positive trends there, and hopefully we can keep that going in to 2026.
Number 3.
Well, this was kind of weird in Clay County. I saw this over the weekend. Missouri State Highway Patrol is working on a plan to remove a decommissioned ATM from an interstate median. That's right. There is a decommissioned ATM in the median of I-35 at Pleasant Valley Road in Clay County. And you can see it on the KC Scout video cam. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to get rid of this decommissioned ATM that is just sitting in the median. I don't know, and no one seems to know how it got there. There are no traffic impacts for any of this. Motorists have just been slowing down in the area. Maybe if you're driving past it right now, you can let us know on the text line at 913-408-7957 if it's still there. But this came yesterday from Channel 41 of all places. They were the ones who were tipped off to it by a viewer. And I'm looking at this thing saying, how did this get there? How did this massive ATM just end up in the middle of the median up on 35 in Clay County? But it's there, and they're trying to figure out what to do about it. All right, we'll keep it rolling here on the 6 at 6.
Number 4.
Today, the Port KC Board of Commissioners set to meet in a special meeting to review an economic development package for the potential redevelopment of the Country Club Plaza. An agenda released on Friday by Port KC shows commissioners will be asked to express their intent to issue conduit bonds of up to $1.4 billion over multiple series. Commissioners will also be asked how to allow Port KC officials to continue to negotiate a memorandum of understanding with the developer, which could include property tax incentives for a period of up to 30 years. Port KC are recommending the board approve the agenda item because, of course, Port KC really never sees an incentive they don't want to give away. The virtual meeting is set for 2 p.m. coming up on Monday. So we'll see. I mean, listen, the plaza obviously needs all the help it can get. We saw the news from late last week, and we talked about it a little bit on Friday when it was announced that Lockton is leaving the plaza for Leawood. So after 25 years, the insurance giant is leaving the plaza as one of its biggest tenants and going to North Leawood as part of a $765 million project. So the folks down on the plaza, I mean, they've got Kansas City by the short hairs right now. So I'm going to bet that whatever they want is going to be approved.
Number 5.
As we roll through the 6 at 6, longtime Kansas Jayhawks assistant men's basketball coach Joe Dooley was arrested on a DUI. Douglas County Sheriff's Office reported that Dooley, 59, was stopped at about 11:15 p.m. This came a couple of nights ago in the 200 block of Running Ridge Road in Lawrence. He was taken into custody on suspicion of driving under the influence, failure to stop at an accident, and transporting an open container. He is in his 13th year as an assistant for the Jayhawks. He will be suspended for 3 weeks effective immediately, according to Bill Self. Bill Self saying in a statement that Joe is remorseful, apologetic, and accepts the consequences of his actions. There you go. He's just annoyed by Darren Peterson. No one knows when Darren Peterson's going to play, and he made some major mistakes as a result.
Number 6.
And last up in our 6 at 6, the White House envoy said yesterday that they have held productive and constructive talks in Florida with Ukrainian and European representatives to try to end the nearly 4-year war between Russia and Ukraine. So the talks are part of the Trump administration's month-long push for peace. Trump has unleashed an extensive diplomatic push to end the war. But, of course, he has hit roadblocks along the way. But we'll see if yesterday's news means maybe, just maybe, this thing comes to an end. Boy, that would be a great way to end the year, would it not? There's your 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour here on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up next, Kendall Gammon. There was a football game yesterday. We've got to talk about it coming up next. 26-9, the final. Chiefs lose to the Titans yesterday in Nashville, inching closer towards that top 10 pick in the NFL draft, right? That's what it's all about. Wow, that was tough to watch. Well, the conversation with Kendall Gammon is brought to you by Xfinity. Sports are unpredictable. The price of your internet should not be. Introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for 5 years. No annual contracts, guaranteed. All right, Kendall, what was the biggest letdown of yesterday for you?
Do we have that much time? Are we doing a longer segment?
We could go 2 segments if you want. I mean, it's all yours, man. If you want to just let it rip, I will give you the floor and let you cook.
Yeah, no, it's just hard to figure out. That was tough to see. Then you feel bad for Gardner Minshew, who would have thought he comes to there and quickly tears an ACL. It sounds like, and you've got Chris Oladokun getting, I think, just his second game ever to get in a game. So a lot of different things. Who would have thought that Travis Kelce would reach, that 800-yard mark for however many seasons in a row to tie Jerry Rice, and that comes from Chris Oladokun. So it was not pretty on all 3 sides of the ball.
No, it wasn't. Now, listen, I understand that, at this point there are plenty of fans, and I said it somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I would put myself into that say, you know what, if you lose these final 2 games, you reset, get a better draft pick, and just kind of look at the future here. But what about the future in the sense that a lot of people were upset that there was not more reps for guys like Jalen Royals yesterday, right? I mean, Pacheco got a lot of reps, and a lot of people were like, can we see Smith, the 7th-round rookie out of SMU? Can we get him some time yesterday? What did you make of that decision by Andy Reid and the staff to not give some of those rookies a chance to find out what exactly you've gotten these guys yesterday?
You know what? I'm not really sure. The thing that comes to mind, Pete, is maybe they feel like they've seen enough of them from through preseason to regular season and practices mostly. The only thing I can come up with is that they've seen them and they feel like they know what they've got. I don't know whether they're potentially trying to let some of the guys play because they are going to be out on their own next year, or that they won't have any value to let them go or trade. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine a whole bunch of value being created by that. So yeah, that one perplexed me a little bit, especially the Brashard Smith one. I thought at running back we'd see a heavy dose of that. But, I think the other thing that maybe comes to mind that we haven't talked about is you only have 53-man roster. So a lot of the starters are playing. And maybe as a coach, you think, you know what, I can't put people in there who aren't ready to play just because I want to see them to play. That's letting down the vets who are in there and are going after it. So I'm not telling you that's the case. I'm just trying to come up with a plausible answer.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, is yesterday's performance also a realization that Patrick Mahomes was able to mask a lot of issues that this team has had, potentially dating all the way back to last year?
Oh, yeah, I think that's a fair statement for sure. Because of who he is and how he does things, he does mask a lot of things. Even in some at least one Super Bowl, I forget which one, but I mean that we won, or even the seasons, I feel like his ability to scramble and throw so well on the run and everything has made offensive lines look better than they are. And I'm not to make light of the offensive line in the past, but they're not always as good as we think, or as bad as we think sometimes as well. But yeah, I think that's a fair statement. He does bring something to the team as a QB and a player that really no other QB I think brings.
All right, so after watching yesterday's game, is there something, not to overreact to that one game, but in watching it, is there a part of this team or a position group that you say, boy, this thing really needs upgrades maybe more than we realized going into next year?
I don't know if it's more than we realized. I think we know the defensive line needs some retooling. We say the offensive line, but that's because it's hurt right now. The starting offensive line this year I thought was fine. And if the offensive line this year doesn't get hurt and you have those people play throughout the year, which is hard to do, but if that happens, I think it's a whole different season. But they didn't, and it's not. So my big thing is defensive line. I think you're going to have to figure out a defensive back side of things as well, because who knows what they're going to do on the re-signing of some of the folks back there. So the the offseason is always interesting and difficult when you're dealing with the salary cap. And of course, the Chiefs, it's been reported around 35 million over, which they can do some things, relieve cap pressure with players signing some contracts, i.e. mostly Patrick Mahomes, that would extend things and open up money. But yeah, it's going to be the most interesting offseason we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Kendall Gammon's joining us. Chiefs lose to the Titans yesterday in Nashville, 26-9. So Phillip Rivers is back in the NFL. The Chiefs have Oladoke in there. I guess he's going to start on Thursday after, as you noted, Gardner Minshew may have torn his ACL. Noah Gray would have been the backup at quarterback if Oladoke had any issues. Matt Castle putting on X yesterday, seeing a lot of people mentioning me going to the Chiefs. Arm is loose, phone lines open. Kendall Gammon, do you want to see Matt Castle back in a Chiefs uniform here to end the season?
I don't, and not because I have anything against him. I know him okay, but no. In my mind, and I love the story with Indianapolis and Phillip Rivers. It still surprises me, but maybe more surprising is how he's played. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't see that one being the case.
All right, now
I'm funny.
It's great. I mean, I'm sure that you've played on some. You played in the Super Bowl, but I imagine you've also played on some teams who are just playing out the string, like the Chiefs are right now. How do you, and what is your mindset? I know everyone probably has a different one depending on what their contract situation is, but how do guys try to come together in these final couple of games knowing that this is it for this group this season?
It's an interesting question. I understand why everybody's curious about it, but it's really not that hard. As an NFL player, you have an ego. You got there because you're good at what you do, and you have a sense of pride of wanting to make sure that you play as well as possible. So it's not that hard to get up and understand that you need to keep playing the games. You're getting paid well. People are very supportive. Obviously, there's no better fans in this world than the Chiefs Kingdom. So it's not a difficult thing, and but maybe it's kind of hard to believe sometimes. I mean, that's the way it is, but it is. And certainly for me, all 4 years in New Orleans, my character building years, as I refer to them as, it was tough because we were never in the playoffs, and we were out of the playoffs fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of Chiefs Kingdom, what do you make of Chiefs Kingdom potentially jumping over across the state line, which is potentially going to be part of a big announcement today from Kansas leaders?
Yeah, I forgot about that. And absolutely, I think that's interesting. It sounds like that's going to be the case. Doesn't surprise me. I'm just happy they're staying in this area. That's me. I know a lot of people have an attachment to Arrowhead, and I do as well. I played there, announced there. It's a wonderful place, but it has served its purpose, I think. And it's hard for me to imagine that you continue to put lipstick on that when you could get a new facility that's ready to go for 40, 50 years. We get a Super Bowl, all kinds of different things. We're in the running for Final Fours. I'm sure you've talked about all of that at length on your shows. So to me, I think it's a great thing, but that's just me. I know a lot of people are very, 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 very emotional about this whole subject.
Yeah, that's certainly...
and that's great. That's what you want.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you want, because the team means so much to them. That's what you want.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And it seems like we might be coming to the finish line of that story coming up today. 3 o'clock announcement from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. All right, Kendall, we'll get set for the Broncos later in the week, and we will talk to you on Wednesday and then again on Friday. Have a great week, my friend.
Okay, you too. Take care.
All right. Kendall Gammon on KCMO. There you go. Woo, man, that was ugly. Ugly.
The good news is I saw the Raiders almost beat the Texans, so now there's a chance the Chiefs can get a top 10 pick. I think that they can actually lose out now. I'm excited about that.
Oh, because you mean the Raiders are playing maybe a little better?
Yeah.
And you got Oladoke back there?
Exactly right.
Claire was laughing. We were laughing yesterday. We kept forgetting how to say his name when Oladoke came in. She's like, how do we say this guy's name again? I'm like, I don't know. I got to look it up.
We'll call him Chris.
Yeah, Chris. I was like, Oladoke. I couldn't. I don't know why. I just couldn't get it to stick yesterday as I'm watching the game. She's like, Dad, what's his name? I'm like, Ola something. I don't know. He's number 19. That's all I know. And he can't throw the damn football to save his life. Jeez. Put Mark out there. Give me something. Goodness gracious. All right. Coming up next, the Kansas City Star is going after a very familiar foe. We'll tell you who and why. And then we have Phil Levota, the Jackson County Executive, on what could be coming from Kansas and how he's going to put his best foot forward. That is at 7:35 on 95.7 FM.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Nice little Christmas story there from Bill O'Reilly. I'm glad he made it. Ended up having a great career. It's 7:22 on a Monday morning. Phil Levota, Jackson County Executive, is going to be here in just over 10 minutes as we get set for a huge announcement by Kansas Governor Laura Kelly today at 3 o'clock. Expected to be about the Chiefs moving at least a part of their operations across the state line. What can the county executive do at the 11th hour? He will join us in 10 minutes on 95.7 FM. So the Kansas City Star is going after our old pal Rick Smith, the former Kansas City police chief. Remember when there was this notion that Rick Smith was the problem for why people were killing each other in Kansas City in 2020 and 2021? And part of that, per the Kansas City Star, was because he was a white guy. I mean, that's the time that we all lived through. I know it feels like a million years ago, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago now that insane narrative existed here in Kansas City. So this broke late last week, and the story read as follows from the Kansas City Star, and then I'll get to their opinion piece over the weekend. Could embattled ex-KCPD chief be tapped by Trump for federal job in Missouri? And the Star writes here, embattled former Kansas City police chief Rick Smith could be poised for a new federal law enforcement job. A potential extraordinary appointment after his stormy exit as the city's top cop. Well, that's an opinion. What was the stormy exit? I mean, I was covering the guy. What was stormy about Rick Smith's exit?
Check with Lezak and see what the weather was. Maybe it was stormy that day. Well, that's the name of his dog. You know? Yeah.
And embattled? I mean, embattled in the sense that you didn't like him at the Kansas City Star, but how is he embattled? So they note that Smith confirmed to the Star last week that U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt's office reached out to him about whether he was interested in becoming the next U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Missouri, a post largely responsible for locating and arresting federal suspects. Smith confirmed that he was interested. The appointment would be issued by President Trump, is far from a certainty, and you do also have to have the support of, I believe, the senior U.S. Senator, which would be Josh Hawley in the state of Missouri. So if Schmidt's interested in Rick Smith and he can pitch it to Hawley, then Rick Smith could be the guy. But then the Star writes this over the weekend. Headline, Rick Smith failed Kansas City and its police. He's wrong for U.S. Marshal job. They just can't help themselves. They really can't. The Kansas City Star writes here, while it's premature to say for certain that Smith's candidacy is legitimate, any thought of a federal appointment gives us significant pause. In this role, Smith would be responsible for collaring federal suspects or bad guys, as Smith likes to label people, even before they are accused of wrongdoing. Remember that? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that
Absolutely
stupid story from a few years ago? I mean, now the Star's bringing up all its dumb stories from several years back. Man.
I laugh every time I see a crime drama on TV and they say, we got the bad guys.
Yes.
I'm like, uh-oh, look at Rick Smith.
If you don't remember the story, when Rick Smith was the police chief, he arrived at the scene of a crime and was captured on audio declaring the bad guy was dead. So think about this. You're the police chief, you show up at a crime scene, and the person that you perceive to be the bad guy is dead, and you say over the, over the mic or whatever, talking down the line, and you say the bad guy's dead. I mean, your blood's going a mile a minute, blood pressure's going a mile a minute, your heart rate is to the roof, and now you got to worry about, what you say over a walkie-talkie that, confirms the Kansas City Star's proper HR standards or something like that.
Seems fairly standard vernacular in crime dramas, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. So this is just one big opinion piece from the Star's editorial board, basically airing out all their grievances against former Kansas City Police Chief Rick Smith, which to me, I'm going to send this to Josh Hawley's office today and be like, guys, I don't know if you and Eric Schmidt are on the same page on a lot of things. I hear mixed reporting on that. But can you at least get on the same page here and realize that the Kansas City Star is going nuts over Rick Smith potentially having this job with the U.S. Marshal's office? We should all be on the same page and make sure he gets the gig. I mean, can we do that together here? Schmidt, Hawley, I'll help whatever you guys need. I want to see him get the. I mean, listen, first off, I think Rick would be very good at the job, and I would support him in any job that he's trying for based on the work that he did here with KCPD, which was good during the most tumultuous time, arguably, in modern Kansas City history, or at least in a generation or two, based on 2020 and things like that. But now it's like, can we also just troll the Kansas City Star in the process? I mean, come on. Can we all be on the same page there, please? That would be pretty good, too. Coming up, Phil Levota is the Jackson County Executive. He's trying at the 11th hour to save the Chiefs. What can he do? What's he got up his sleeve? He will join us coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio.
KCMO Talk Radio. From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, we know that today at 3 o'clock, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly is having a special announcement that is believed to be tied to the future specifically of the Kansas City Chiefs. We now welcome on and say good morning to Phil Levota. He is the interim Jackson County Executive, took over that role a few weeks ago, and he's been busy. He's been largely doing right by the taxpayer, and now he's got to figure out how he can try to keep specifically the Kansas City Chiefs at the Truman Sports Complex. He's joining us on 95.7 FM. Phil, good morning. I mean, it feels like we're at the 11th hour of this thing, but where are you at right now as you sit here on a Monday morning and wait to see what today brings?
Good morning, Pete. I want to make sure what we talk about the 11th hour is Kansas 11th hour. They're scrambling to put something together with a week left of the Kansas Star Bonds being eligible. The state of Missouri has been working on this for years. I think you had the governor on your show months ago talking about all the things, the partnership between the state of Missouri, Jackson County, Kansas City, and the people of Jackson County. So there's no 11th hour business for us. The Kansas City Star keeps saying this is a last-ditch effort from the county. We've been talking to the Chiefs for months. They know our proposal. We decided just to get out in front of it after the noise of going on with Kansas, and we wanted to talk about it last week. This stuff in Kansas, there's no specifics to it. There's no details. There's no meat. It's just, hey, we got a shiny, bright new stadium. We hope the Chiefs jump on this without looking into the details.
So you don't feel like today is the end? You think today is more of just like a, hey, the Chiefs meet Kansas's deadline. If they go to Kansas, then this is what they would do. But you fully expect Jackson County to be back at the negotiating table in the not-too-distant future.
We're definitely still in the negotiation. Here's what happened. I'll be honest with you. They could show up today and find a deal that is just too good to be true and snap it up. But they could also look at it and say, okay, thank you. Now we have to agree to have an incentive or say we're going to possibly use these funds and enter an agreement to use the fund. Doesn't mean it's done. There are several people in Topeka saying, we can't do this, it's not a good deal. But there are politicians who are running for governor and running for stuff said, we need to sign this up. We need to get this thing done. It helps me politically. I think the people of Kansas are not being served well because they don't know what's going on. They don't know the specifics. And the Star Bonds aren't the greatest thing in the world. The Speedway has not paid off their Star Bonds in 20 years, 25 years. So I would love to see what Kansas is doing, and maybe I'd comment better to say, yeah, that is a good deal for the Chiefs. But no one knows. So this 11th hour for Kansas, trying to get something done in the last week before the Star Bonds expire, they're doing the last-ditch effort. When over here in Jackson County, state of Missouri, we've been open and transparent with the team. We've been talking to them. The team likes our proposals, but of course they're going to listen to Kansas today.
Mm-hmm. So what about, I know that there are some things about Missouri that are not getting enough attention right now, where Missouri can offer the Chiefs upwards of $600 million in federal tax benefits that Kansas structurally cannot match. And my understanding is that some of this is tied to the passing of the big, beautiful bill earlier this year by the Trump administration. What is that?
There are some amazing details that the team has not looked at, and we're sharing with them today about federal tax incentives, federal tax credits, and the possibility of a dome. So we want to make sure the team has everything they need because they're being rushed and they're being pressured. And, that's coming from the team themselves saying, we're getting a hard, aggressive sell here with the last week from Kansas. So there are a lot of things that the Chiefs would lose by moving away from Arrowhead that they haven't considered yet. And those are some of these federal tax incentive, federal tax credits that are only available in Missouri, and Kansas, it's not available.
So are you hoping to get in front of the team with that information before any potential decision comes down today?
They're going to get it. They're going to hear from me. They're going to hear this detailed. I have some letters this morning with some specific details, not just pie in the sky, some actual numbers that are $250 million or $500 million in incentives and credits that are available right now only because of the location of where Arrowhead is. And those will be left on the table if they go to Kansas. So I'm going to make sure the team has it before they walk into any meeting in Topeka.
Okay, so you want those letters. You're going to get those letters to the Chiefs before they get to Topeka today and potentially sit down or will sit down for that meeting. So have you had any conversations of note in the last few days, or has it been relatively quiet for you?
I am on a daily either phone conversation or text string with the Chiefs, and I know what they're going through, and I understand the business of them having to listen to what's going on in Kansas, and I respect it. I don't accept it, but I respect it, and we won't give up in Missouri about pushing the best plan for the Kansas City Chiefs for their future.
Phil Levota is the interim county executive for Jackson County, joining us on 95.7 FM. Of course, there is the big meeting today in Topeka, 3 o'clock, expected to be some kind of an announcement from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. So what about the fact that the one thing that Kansas does seem to have a leg up over Missouri on is that nothing they do needs to go to a vote of the public, at least nothing statewide with the Star Bond. Who knows if there's a local component on this? But that does seem to be an attractive option at a time when it seems like voters, not just in Jackson County, but we've seen this sort of around the country, there's not a great appetite to give tax dollars to sports teams in this current climate from Republicans or Democrats. And how much do you think Missouri's behind the eight ball when it comes to that part of the equation?
Well, you're exactly right, but two things. Number one, we don't know what happens in Kansas. The Star Bonds would pay for 70% of the funding for the new stadium. The teams and or someone else will have to come up with the funds to finish it up and to maintain it. There's no component and no details about that. Over in Missouri, we do have that. We have the 3.8 sales tax right now that Jackson County or anyone who buys something in Jackson County has been paying for 50 years. And the only component that our issue has before the voters is to reduce that. To reduce it from 3.8 cents to 1/4 cents and make it just for the Chiefs. You're so right about the appetite of people wanting to spend tax dollars for stadiums. And that's what I don't think could happen in Kansas. I'm concerned about anything in North Kansas City for the Royals. But in Jackson County, we've been paying it at 3.8 cents. And we're going to reduce it for 1/4 cent. So that's what the voters look at. And I'm confident the people of Jackson County will say, okay, we're lowering taxes and we're keeping the Chiefs for something we're already paying. I think that sells in contrast to bringing a brand new tax issue in front of the voters.
And you want to get that on the ballot as soon as what? April would be your ideal time?
Yep, April would be it.
Okay. And that is something that you would have to vote on as a Jackson County legislature by when?
It could be done next week. It could be done the first week of January. The Jackson County legislature, I've taken the temperature of them, and they're all the biggest Chiefs fans in the world, and they understand keeping the Chiefs is important. The Royals are going to leave, and keeping the Chiefs is important to our community, and we don't want to lose them out at Arrowhead and have an empty stadium, empty sports complex. So they're going to vote on it, and we'll have enough votes in the legislature to get that on the ballot. We'll run a simple, transparent campaign, and it's simple. And we'll tell the voters, here's what we're doing. There's no hiding behind anything. There's no location movement. There's no displaced people. That's what happened 2 years ago. People want to bring up that debacle from 2 years ago. That wasn't not one mention of the Chiefs not being positive. It was the Royals part of it that screwed that up. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants the Chiefs to stay, and that wins. That wins at the ballot box.
Well, you're right. Yeah, that Chiefs were largely collateral damage on that deal 2 years ago. You're right about that. But did I just hear you say, with the Royals leaving, are you acquiescing and basically saying that you feel like the Royals are done in Jackson County no matter what happens here today?
No, not in the least. I'm saying to the contrary. I don't think the people of north of the river want to put on a ballot to tax themselves to increase a new Royal Stadium. And I think in Jackson County, we still can do that and help them keep them in Jackson County. So no, by no means does that mean I'm acquiescing. The Royals need to be in Jackson County too.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, the other thing that it seems like Missouri's behind the eight ball with compared to Kansas is not just lack of a vote on the Kansas side, but also the dome issue. We know that there is an appetite for bigger events, indoor events, whatever that might look like. Do you see a lane, and what potentially is it to give the Chiefs what they might be looking for on that front?
The Chiefs' conversation with us have never been, we need a dome. The dome is a lot of people, we like a dome, the people. If the Kansas City Chiefs want to put a dome over Arrowhead, we're going to listen, we're going to help them. And some of these tax credits and incentives, there's up to $250 million that we can get for them to heat it. Because what we're thinking about in Kansas, they didn't think about, they have to air condition and heat that thing. And there's no money in Star Bonds for that. So that millions and millions of dollars every month and every year to do that is something that is not on the table. So I guess my point is if the Kansas City Chiefs want to put a dome at Arrowhead, we're on board to fix our proposal and address that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Phil Levota, last thing, just, you're sitting here on a Monday morning. Everyone's kind of waiting to see what the day brings. How are you feeling? As much as you just walked into this big situation, this is no reflection on you, but you stepped into this a few weeks ago. How are you feeling right now?
This is big generational decisions from the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, and they don't happen quickly. And something can happen today that could be changed within a couple days. So I don't think anything's done today. I think we're going to hear that the Chiefs have looked and listened, and then hopefully we'll have some specifics from it. So I can't really answer that until we get some transparency out of the Kansas government and tell us what's going on with it. So I'm still hopeful. I still believe that when I talk to the Chiefs, they're open with me. They're honest with me. I understand they're going to look at everything as business, but I still think that Jackson County's been their home for so long. Arrowhead Stadium is the most iconic stadium in all of professional sports, and I think that weighs heavy on them and the fan base of leaving. So I'm still confident that we still have the ability to keep them at Arrowhead. All
right. Phil Levota, he is the interim Jackson County executive on KCMO. Phil, always appreciate your time on KCMO Talk Radio. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. There you go. Phil Levota on 95.7 FM. All right. We'll see. 3 o'clock today, Laura Kelly has the announcement from Topeka. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. We'll get to that next on 95.7 FM.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
7:50. Good morning. Happy Monday. We are here with you on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Let's do it.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, let's start with the good. I have been drinking, or I guess I should say sipping, J. Rieger's Kansas City whiskey since I got to Kansas City almost a decade ago, and I finally got a chance to tour their distillery on Saturday night. It was a Christmas gift from Kate to myself, and I'll tell you what, it was fantastic. If you get a chance to get up there, you got to go to the East Bottoms. It's not exactly a convenient place to necessarily go to, but if you can get over there and tour the distillery and check it out, it is, first off, a very successful small business, medium business, whatever you want to call it, in Kansas City. They're now in 26 states around the country with their whiskey, and I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about the history, which goes back to the 1880s, and then Prohibition basically ended J. Rieger, and then it makes a comeback in 2015, 2016, and 10 years later, they got a fantastic operation up there. And tasting was great, location's fun. So if you get a chance, head on up there and make sure you check it out, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I don't know, I'm not a big, tour the winery place, but for some reason with a distillery, I got a kick out of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So head on up there and do that if you haven't done it yet. It's a hour tour, and it's a fantastic time. I may bring John and Mark in the new year just for another tasting, if nothing else. Plus, I want to see John after the tasting of the 135 proof whiskey that we got to try. Or you might water it down a little bit. Mark will water it down. I know that much. John will go straight for it. I'll drive you home, John. Deal? Does that work for you?
Oh, I've got those 5 bypasses, so you clean right out.
You in, Mark?
I'm in. I'm looking at this bottle right here with it looks like the Plaza lights on it. It looks kind of cool.
I didn't see that one.
Holiday edition, it says.
Well, they had a whole holiday theme going there. They had a women's choir there as we were walking out. They were pretty good. So they were rocking and rolling. Very festive atmosphere.
That wasn't a women's choir. That was just the group of crosswalk guards after the tasting. They enjoyed it quite a bit.
You get that 135 proof in you, man. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot. Don't worry. They don't overload you or anything like that. But, that'll put some hair on your chest. I'll say that much.
Everybody's singing after that tour.
Everyone's singing after 135 proof whiskey. Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Unbelievable. But it was great, and a good local business, of course, to support here in Kansas City. All right. The bad from the weekend. So this Turning Point USA event, the America Fest event that they do every year. So this event is done every year, and it's obviously the first one in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I just thought everything I saw on social media did not look good. A lot of infighting. Tucker Carlson's going after Ben Shapiro. Shapiro's going after this. I mean, it was just like everyone's fighting with each other. I thought it was a bad look when the movement and the party right now is not in a very good place and potentially could be on the verge, I hope I'm wrong, of getting its clock cleaned in these midterms. But, I'm going to call it like it is. But that's not what I'm going to highlight here. This was just uncomfortable. So Nicki Minaj was there speaking. She's become a supporter of the president. She's sitting there talking with Erica Kirk, and she says this that is very uncomfortable when she uses the word assassin.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin.
Let's start it again.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin, J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back. And this is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord, and words are words, but I know her heart, and it doesn't even matter. And you say what you want to say because I know your heart. I will not judge that.
Sister. Thank you.
Well, that's awkward. Nicki Minaj sitting next to Erica Kirk, whose husband was assassinated, calling J.D. Vance an assassin. Now, Erica handled it beautifully. She handled it like a total pro. God bless her. She's amazing. But Nicki Minaj was not thinking that one through. Whoops. That was awkward. But really kind of highlighting what was, I think, kind of a strange weekend for the entire event, unfortunately, because I want them to have tremendous success. And J.D. Vance was really good in his speech last night, but there was too much just infighting and who's going to grow their podcast audience on saying this or saying that and going viral against one of their own. It was bizarre. The ugly, speaking of bizarre from the weekend, and maybe I just wanted to make this one the ugly because I want to rag on Georgetown as a Villanova guy. But Georgetown's basketball coach, Ed Cooley, has been suspended one game after throwing a water bottle that hit a child following the Hoyas' 80-77 loss to Xavier on Saturday. With less than 5 seconds to play, down 3 points, Georgetown had an opportunity to send the game to overtime, missed a three-pointer at the buzzer. Cooley chucked what appeared to be a plastic water bottle into the stands, and video shows the bottle hitting a mother and a child sitting a couple of rows behind the Hoyas bench. What are you doing, man? You're a 56-year-old grown man at a basketball game as the head coach you're the multi-million-dollar head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas throwing a water bottle like a petulant child. You would punish your 7-year-old for acting like Ed Cooley. What an embarrassment. He has been suspended, which is the right thing for Georgetown to do. Coming up, Blake Carpenter, Kansas Speaker Pro Tem, member of the LCC, on today's big announcement in Kansas next. Well, we're all waiting to see what comes today. 3 o'clock is when Governor Laura Kelly in Kansas will share a special announcement on behalf of the state and what is expected to be the Kansas City Chiefs. We're happy to welcome on and say good morning to Blake Carpenter. He is the Kansas Speaker Pro Tem. He's also a member of the Legislative Coordinating Council. That is the group that would either approve or deny a potential proposal from the Chiefs and or the Royals as it relates to a star bond district. Blake, good morning. It's great to have you here. Obviously, the million-dollar question is what today is going to bring. Where are you at this morning in anticipation of what this afternoon may bring in Topeka?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners this morning. So I'm currently in Topeka right now in my office, just plugging away on some constituent work here. But yeah, I also want to be very careful this morning to make sure that the information that I give you guys is not released in a piecemeal way. So when work like this is done in Topeka, it's important that all the details are shared together and at the appropriate time so that the public receives a complete and accurate picture. But what I can do is provide you some historical context and some credit as far as people along the way, if that's something that you guys would be interested in hearing.
Well, please. I mean, where do you give the credit to first on this in terms of whatever ends up happening today?
Well, this whole conversation started back actually in 2022 with Speaker Ron Reichman with some legislation then that kind of laid the groundwork. And then during a special session of 2024, Representative Sean Tarwater, who's actually up there in Johnson County, who's the chairman of the Commerce Committee, put tremendous effort into passing House Bill 2001. The bill required extensive vetting, stakeholder engagement, and careful committee work at the time. It ended up passing last year with 84 votes out of the House, 84 to 38, and then it went to the Senate and passed 27 to 8 before Governor Kelly signed that piece of legislation. I also want to recognize Speaker Dan Hawkins and Senate President Ty Masterson, as both of them played key roles in allowing this legislation to take place and shape last year as it went into effect. Does everybody out there that's listening know what the LCC or the Legislative Coordinating Council is and what their function is typically?
Well, why don't you give us that overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So the LCC or the Legislative Coordinating Council is a group of legislative leaders that are comprised of both House and Senate leadership members. So you got 4 from the House and 4 from the Senate, 3 in the majority party, 1 in the minority party from both chambers. And so they are tasked with making sure that the legislature, when we're not in session, is still able to run and decisions are made from an executive level, whether it's staffing issues or hiring people within the legislative agencies or just approving different proposals throughout the year when the legislature's not in. And then once the legislature does come back for session, that's when all the members typically tend to get a chance to have a say in various issues.
So one name that you left out there, and I don't know if it's because of the politics of it, but Governor Laura Kelly, does she deserve credit here in all this?
Well, I think early on in the process, Governor Kelly was pretty skeptical back in 2022. There's some news articles out there that contain some of those comments. But at the end of the day, Lieutenant Governor Toland has been doing yeoman's work on this, and along with Laura Kelly. So I think that the administration does, deserve some credit out there for all the things that they've done in order to enable and support the legislation in the past.
So today, whatever comes out of today, and Blake Carpenter is on the Legislative Coordinating Council, will you be expected to approve or deny a proposed star bond district today, potentially by the Chiefs, or will you have time to review it? And if so, what is that timeline?
Well, I can say that there is a publicly noticed meeting of the LCC this afternoon. But I do want to be careful not to release information, like I said, in pieces. So official communications will come out later today that will provide a full picture to the public and so that everybody can understand everything that's all together. Okay.
Now, in terms of the Star Bond District itself, I'm not expecting you to comment on that per se, but it's something I've talked with Ty Masterson about, the Kansas Senate President, who, of course, is the chair of the LCC, making sure that this district is not abusive in nature. How important is that to you?
Well, I think that that's absolutely important. We want to make sure that every taxpayer is treated equally and fairly. I think that a lot of taxpayers these days are very worried about property taxes, and rightfully so. With star bonds, those are funded with sales tax revenue, though, from a star bond district. And so the bondholders will put money forward in order to enable the project, and then the tax revenue that's generated from that project will go back to the bondholders first, and then from there, that money will then go into the state, essentially. So one prime example of this is what you guys already have up in Johnson County with the Speedway. That was used with star bond funds, and it was paid off 5 years early. And if I recall the number correctly, it brings in about $50 million in state revenue every single year now that we have it. And it used to be just a field, right? So that's where the economic incentives tend to come from star bonds, is that it's these bondholders that take the risk, not the state or the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. Blake Carpenter is here. He is on the Legislative Coordinating Council. He is of course, Speaker Pro Tem up in Topeka, getting set for what is expected to be a very big announcement with Governor Laura Kelly and the Chiefs coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And, for you, what is, no matter what happens today, a local component with the counties and cities that will be involved, what are your expectations there, and what should residents and taxpayers expect potentially from their counties and their cities if a big project like this does move forward?
Well, I think with any star bond, that communication has to flow between the state and those local communities to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I think that it requires government at all levels in order to make any of these types of projects work. That's the way star bonds have always been. And I think that's what will have to continue to occur here is just conversations between local and state government. And one thing that I'm excited about is that there was actually recently a local government caucus that was created here in the legislature by some members because they're former local government officials. And so that's something that I think the state is trying to emphasize as we move forward here is how can we better partner with our local communities? Because I think a lot of people understand and know that the closer your representatives are to you, the better and more responsive they are as a government. And so that, I think, is a healthy relationship, and we have to make sure that we prioritize that as we move forward.
And no matter how this plays out moving forward, there is no expectation or no need for anything with this project to go to a vote. I mean, I know that obviously nothing with the star bonds and the state require a vote, but do you anticipate anything with county voters or city voters to be required to vote on this, or is this something that really can get done without any input from the voter?
Well, I'm hoping to find out more information this afternoon as we review any proposals that are submitted before us and consume those details at that appropriate time.
All right. Blake Carpenter, Speaker Pro Tem, member of the LCC. Overall, though, how are you feeling ahead of today with the big 3 o'clock announcement?
Well, I'm looking forward to what everybody has to say. I'm not sure what everybody has to say at this point, but, I think that it's going to be a good day. And at the end of the day, you know what? We're only a few days out from Christmas, so who knows? Maybe it's Governor Kelly wishing all Kansans a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest. This is nothing against the Chiefs or you guys, the LCC, Governor Kelly. I'm more excited about celebrating the birth of Jesus than today. That's just me, though. And if you're on board with me, then we're on the same page on that front.
Absolutely. I would definitely say that that's where I'm at. Looking forward to celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior, right?
All right. There you go. Blake Carpenter on KCMO. We'll see what happens today. Thank you very much there, Blake. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
All right.
you.
There you go. Blake Carpenter on 95.7 FM. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. 95.7 FM, streaming as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app. It's been a very busy Monday morning as, of course, we get set for this 3 o'clock announcement today. And I hear they're talking about the weather over on sports radio this morning because what else are you going to talk about, right?
Oh.
Thank you very much there, Mark. I appreciate that. 8:14. Oh, man. It is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Text line is going nuts right now. Oh, man. All right. I'll get to some of these coming up next segment. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Next, I do want to get to this. All right, there's a weird political flex on this story that I don't think makes any sense. I'll explain coming up.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
No matter what happens with the Chiefs and the Royals, expected, of course, that today Governor Laura Kelly will be announcing big news regarding the Kansas City Chiefs. No matter what happens, I've seen this strange narrative play out in recent days. And it's mostly driven by people who, frankly, don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the politics behind the scenes, but they want it to fit their preferred political narrative.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I mean, they don't. And the narrative is this. Kansas, led by Democrat Laura Kelly, has potentially outplayed the good old boys club in the Missouri GOP. Yeah. In the words of the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Okay? Pump the brakes. If the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately end up going to Kansas, it will not be because Laura Kelly is some kind of strategic genius who outmaneuvered Mike Kehoe. It will be because of multiple failures in the state of Missouri by Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans to blame would be Mike Parson, Mike Kehoe's predecessor, if we're being honest. That guy, I mean, he would just talk all day, all night. Yeah, we want to keep the teams, and didn't do squat when he was sitting there as a lame duck. He said he was going to do something. He didn't do anything. As far as I could tell, I mean, did nothing. Kehoe comes in, tries to save it, gets a special session, gets a state offer passed, but by then, it may have ultimately been too little, too late. We'll have to wait and see. And then when you look at the local failures, well, number one, it's Frank White. And last I checked, Frank White's not a member of the Republican Party, is he?
Nope.
No. Now, this is not some indictment on the Jackson County Democrats at all. It's not about them. It was personally about Frank's beef, his failures as county executive on a multitude of levels, not just negotiating with the teams, but also with the property tax fiasco, which is part of the reason that the vote failed the way it did last year. Not the only reason, but part of the reason it failed the way it did last year. His mishandling of the property tax fiasco. And that's one of the reasons that the door was wide open for Kansas in the first place. And then on the Kansas side, you have, as you just heard from Blake Carpenter, a majority of Republicans on the Legislative Coordinating Council who have played a huge role in potentially landing one or two professional sports teams. In fact, my understanding in talking to people is that the governor's office was always more inclined to make a strong play for the Royals. But the LCC wanted to swing bigger for the Chiefs. And it looks like they may ultimately get their wish. In fact, there was some thought, and there was some beef inside of Topeka, that the Chiefs felt like they were getting ignored by the governor's office because she was more in line politically with Royals owner John Sherman than she was and is with Chiefs owner Clark Hunt. I'm just telling you, those are the rumors that were swirling around Topeka over the last several months. So in the end, there's very little about this potential move that is R versus D, Republican versus Democrat. This was not a direct Laura Kelly versus Mike Kehoe kind of standoff where she maneuvered her way into some brilliant backdoor deal that ends up bringing the Chiefs potentially across the state line. That's not what this is about. There were failures by Republicans in Missouri. There were many local failures by Democrats in Missouri on the county level, and less so on the city level. Listen, everyone's ragging on Quentin Lucas, and, who would have thought that I might be one of Quentin Lucas's bigger defenders on this right now, but I will be. If this team jumps across state line, there's not much blame that you can put at the feet of Quentin Lucas. And I'm hearing and seeing stuff on social media, sports radio people very quick to note, oh boy, Quentin Lucas, he's the real. I mean, Quentin Lucas never had as much juice in this whole process as, frankly, he probably thought he did or he insinuated he did. and certainly didn't behind closed doors, John.
Not in charge of the Jackson County Sports Complex.
No, not at all.
Not the Kansas City, Missouri Sports Complex.
Nope, not at all. Not for a second. Not in charge of Jackson County. Certainly doesn't have a direct line to the governor's office. So, yeah, he was kind of part of the equation. The only thing you could say about Quentin Lucas and the city's handling of this, and I don't believe this is the main reason the Chiefs ultimately may end up leaving. But if you want to go back to when a stray bullet flies through Andy Reid's office and the crime issues that continue to persist in Kansas City, if you want to point to that as a potential reason for why the Chiefs may just decide, hey, you know what, I think we're just done with this. Even though Truman Sports Complex is isolated and safe and there really are no issues there for people that go to games, if you want to put that as like a cliff note as to why they may just say we're done here, you can do it. But it's not really the main reason for any of this, John.
It's not a plus.
No.
It?
Well, it's definitely not helping their cause.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what you can say about it.
Yes. The issues of Kansas City have not helped Missouri, to your point there, at all. But it's certainly not the main reason they may end up leaving Kansas City for the state of Kansas. But definitely not a plus to your point. But none of this has really been Republican versus Democrat. There have been Republicans and Democrats on both sides who have played critical roles, for better or for worse, in the saga. And ultimately, while masked differently, they're all playing with taxpayer money and current and or future revenues of the state. But I'll save that topic for another day, because that's not what today is about. 913-408-7957. How you feeling there, Mark? You've been wanting this for a long time, big guy. Just own it, all right? Don't shy away from it. This has been your dream, getting the Chiefs to Kansas.
I mean, since they've been talking about it, yeah, Chiefs to Kansas seems like it's the move. They'll get a Super Bowl. I know you don't care much about the Super Bowl or the Final Fours, but I'm excited about that. The fan fest and all that stuff, that gets me pumped up. So hopefully they can bring it to Kansas.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying I'm not excited. I just don't think it's for the average person. I was in New York when there was a Super Bowl at MetLife. And, unless you were part of the elite, it was just like, okay, it was there, but you weren't part of it. And by you, I mean the average person wasn't part of it. I wasn't part of it, and I was even in the media when I was there. So, it's not going to be in many ways like the World Cup, beneficial to the average person. But if you're just excited for it, that's cool. Just take it easy there, Mark.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
I mean, Mark's a week removed from his birthday, and I think he's more excited for this.
We're going to try to tickle your tonsils on every play,
Hang in
every
there,
game.
Mark. Hang in there, buddy. News in 2 minutes. We're coming back. Someone wants to pay more taxes. Who and why? Next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Oh, shut up, Mitt Romney. I don't want to hear it. I don't. I mean, I stumbled upon this piece in the New York Times over the weekend from former presidential candidate and U.S. Senator Mitt Romney, and it's headlined, "Tax the Rich Like Me." Yes. Well, I just want to let Mitt Romney know, before I go any further on his piece, that you can voluntarily pay more if you want to. They will you can give a gift to the nation. I'm serious. I'm looking at the website right here. Pay.gov. You can give the government more money. The U.S. Treasury accepts voluntary gifts specifically to reduce the national debt. They are considered gifts, not tax payments, and they're managed by the Bureau of Fiscal Service. Pay.gov. So I don't know why Mitt Romney's writing about it in the New York Times. He can just do it, John.
Yeah, but I want my money to go to the wall.
Right. Yeah, there are people who are going to be very specific on where they want their money to go.
Back when we had the wall thing, they didn't want to use that option that you're describing because it's not specific. I think that's just a general fund thing. But to your point, Mitt's welcome to just open up the checkbook and go to town.
I know, he can do that. So he gets this piece in the New York Times. And then, it starts to go viral, and guys like Tom Steyer. Do you remember Tom Steyer? He ran for president as a Democrat back in 2019. He was going for like the billionaire, independent, Michael Bloomberg-ish lane.
Yeah. Bloomberg Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
He was one of three of those.
Yes.
Of that type in the
exactly
candidates.
And he shared Mitt Romney's article saying, "Tax me more. I've been saying this for a long time. Even rational Republicans agree because they're looking at the numbers." I'm just exhausted by the "I'm ultra wealthy, I should pay more in taxes" shtick.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, okay, literally, just do it. Just do it. And share a screenshot on social media of your $10 million donation to the U.S. Treasury, and then let's talk.
Show that you took no deductions.
Yes.
Not even for the chickadee checkoff for a buck.
Exactly. You want to talk about loopholes? Sure, there's plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's made for these guys and their rich buddies, and then they complain about how they have them. It's like, guys, it's you and your lobbyists who set all this nonsense up. And now it's like, boy, I'm screwing the country here. I wish there was a way to fix it.
I got a way to fix it. He needs to be paid less.
Well,
right?
You know what?
Shall we go there?
Can we go there? Okay. Mitt Romney made his money in private equity. Eliminating redundancies, firing mid-level workers, and hollowing out in many respects the middle class. So is this like his penance? Is this him trying to basically right his wrongs? I mean, come on, dude. You turn yourself into someone worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not quite sure if Mitt Romney's a billionaire or not, but he's worth a tremendous amount of money, and God bless him, it's America. But he makes it on the backs of private equity, and then it's like, boy, I got to give some more money to the government. Boy, this ain't working too well for the country, is it?
He hadn't earned enough money to change his name, I guess. Phil Romney, come on, man. Mitt.
I will give him 1 point here in this New York Times piece that was fairly good. And it's about Elon Musk. And it's not directed just at Elon Musk, but it really applies to anybody. But before I say this, I will preface it by saying, for the Elon Musk haters, he paid the single largest tax bill in history of $11 billion in 2021. I think that's paying his fair share, don't you? $11 billion.
I would say so.
To the federal government. Which then, by the way, he's created thousands of jobs. Those thousands of workers have also paid billions of dollars to the government. So let's pump the brakes on Elon. But there is one loophole here that old Mittens brings up that I think is a good point. He writes here, for example, the cavern of the capital gains tax treatment at death for those with enormous estates. He said, let's use a hypothetical scenario of Elon Musk. If he had originally purchased his Tesla stock for, say, $1 billion, and held it until his death, and it was then worth $500 billion, he would never pay the 24% federal capital gains tax on the $499 billion in profit. Why? Because under the tax code, capital gains are not taxed at death. The tax code provision, known as step up in basis, means that when Elon Musk's heirs get his stock, and the guy's got like 37 kids, so he's, only going to give each one like $20 billion each. I mean, you got to take it easy there, Elon, with the kids. They're going to go poor. They are treated as if they purchased it for $500 billion. So no one ever pays taxes on the $499 billion in capital gains ever if those stocks are just transferred directly to his heirs. Now, is that a loophole that maybe should be looked at? Sure. But Mitt Romney needs to be much more critical of the spending in this country than the taxing in this country. Over the last few years, the government has taken in more money than it's ever taken in. After Trump's tax cuts in 2017, government revenues, federal government revenues, set records. So you can't sit here and tell me, Trump's not taxing the rich enough, or Republican or whoever. I mean, it's both parties at this point, right? I mean, Biden could have increased taxes. He didn't. Could have done it. I mean, in 2021, he had the House and the Senate and the White House, obviously, and they chose to keep Trump's taxes from 2017 in place. They didn't touch them. Now, those taxes were set to expire this year. That's what Republicans had to extend in the big, beautiful bill. But Democrats never actually seriously looked at raising taxes because I think deep down, many of them knew that it was good for the bulk of the American people, and that the problem was never about spending. When you're setting records for revenue you're bringing into the Treasury, you don't have a revenue problem. You have a spending problem. You have programs like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid that are going to drive this country off a cliff and are going broke and are not going to be there for future generations unless you want to sit there and talk about $100 trillion in debt. And considering we're almost halfway there right now at $38 trillion in debt, maybe we're not all that far off. Maybe that's a reality in my lifetime, at least. Not sure, about some of yours, but in my lifetime, maybe I'll see $100 trillion in debt. And maybe Mitt Romney wants to also point out while he's at it that if you care about the average person in the middle class, the fact that we spend so much more than we take in is part of the reason that inflation, while coming back to reasonable numbers, is still largely out of control. And the middle class has been hollowed out because of government spending, much more so than it's been hollowed out because Elon Musk isn't paying enough in taxes. So I know that Mitt Romney's trying to be like this he's all over the map, right? He runs for president. He's Mr. Conservative. He runs for Senate. He's like, suddenly a Trump guy and Trump supporter. Then he leaves the Senate. Then he hates Trump, but he's a never Trump guy and he's TDS. I mean, Mitt Romney doesn't know what he is today or tomorrow or the day after that. He's got no identity. He's been everything and also nothing at the same time over the last 15 years in politics. So I take the whole piece with a major grain of salt. And as has been the case, frankly, really going back a decade, Mitt Romney seems to miss the bigger point and the big picture here. But hey, he got himself in the New York Times, which I think was ultimately his goal. 913-408-7957.
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
Well, they're not. They're not on the spending side. Talk to me when you get that under control, all right? 913-408-7957. We are here with you on a Christmas week, kicking it off on a Monday on KCMO Talk Radio. We are monitoring what is expected to be a very big announcement this afternoon from Laura Kelly in Topeka regarding the future of the Kansas City Chiefs. Watching it very closely on 95.7 FM. Always streaming on our KCMO Talk Radio app, 913-408-7957. We'll keep it rolling. We'll get to you as well coming up on KCMO.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Announcement here from the Trump administration this morning saying it would pause leases for 5 wind farms under construction off the East Coast. As the New York Times writes in its piece here, I'm just laughing, a major escalation of President Trump's crusade against offshore wind power. Yeah, because it's ugly, and the people that claim they care about the environment don't care about killing the birds and ruining the wildlife because they put their obsession with green energy above the livelihood of wildlife, is what they do. I mean, that's really it. Their green energy crusade is, for many of them, their religion. So that's why they suddenly don't care about the wildlife. But anyway, citing national security concerns, Doug Burgum, the Secretary of the Interior, said in a statement, the prime duty of the United States government is to protect the American people. He said this decision addresses emerging national security risks, including the rapid evolution of the relevant adversary technologies and the vulnerabilities created by large-scale offshore wind projects with proximity near our East Coast population centers. President Trump has repeatedly called offshore wind turbines ugly, costly, and inefficient. Well, he's right. They are. They're only effective if they're getting massive, massive government subsidies. Now, I'd like to see him do this, and I'll ask Mike Thompson about this coming up here in a few minutes. He's going to be on the show. I just got him locked in. I'm also going to ask him about the marijuana being rescheduled from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. The Kansas State Senator out of Shawnee had a viral post on this last week. We'll talk to him about coming up. But I know there are many people here in Kansas and Missouri who would love to see the president also take aim at wind energy, not just offshore, but on our farms, on our open land. This has been a major sticking point for regular people and farmers in particular, and ranchers in Missouri and Kansas. And they feel like their voices have not been heard in Topeka or in Jefferson City. And part of the reason for that is because they think these energy companies basically lobby the heck out of these politicians. It's not a Republican or Democrat issue. Obviously, both these states in the legislature are run by Republicans, and they just do what the energy companies want them to do. And however these companies can go about getting the best bang for their buck, well, guess what? They're going to go about doing it that way. And the politicians are not going to get in the way. But the regular people are getting hurt by this. And they don't like it in many of our rural communities. So I would love it if President Trump took his next aim on this issue at what's happening in the heartland of this country, not just offshore at places like Martha's Vineyard and Virginia and New York and Rhode Island and Connecticut. But this is definitely a step in the right direction. I'll say that much. So Mike Thompson will be coming up on this and much more here on KCMO Talk Radio just after 9 o'clock. In the meantime, we obviously are all eyes on Topeka this afternoon. What's going to be happening with an announcement from Governor Laura Kelly coming up at 9 o'clock. 3 o'clock is when that special announcement takes place. Here's the information for the afternoon. At 1 p.m., Kansas officials hold their LCC meeting. That is the Legislative Coordinating Council meeting. This is the organization in the group that will review possible Chiefs Stadium finances. What does the Star Bond District look like? What do the Chiefs want to do? What is their proposal? At 3 p.m., the governor hosts this special announcement. At 4 p.m., we're now learning that Mayor Lucas will have a possible news conference on sports team developments. If today goes how it's expected to go, Quentin's got to just stay away. And I'm saying that as advice to him. Like, there's a lot of people trying to roll him under the bus and say that he's the reason these teams are leaving. He's not. In a weird way, I actually may be one of his bigger supporters on this issue with the way it's played out. He's not the guy to blame. He's not in the top 5 or 10 people to blame if this thing does go the way we think it's going to go today. He's frankly a minor player. And I know he's a face as the mayor of Kansas City, but in terms of the finances and who can do what, he's not close to the biggest player in this decision by the Chiefs. Christmas is coming up in 3 days. If the Chiefs do announce they're going to Kansas today, Mayor Q's got to just go MIA till the new year. Do you guys disagree at this point? I mean, what's he possibly going to say today if the announcement goes the way we expect it to go?
Yeah, there's nothing good that can come out of it.
No. What's he going to say? I mean, the border war's bad? That's kind of what he said after Lockton announced that they were leaving the plaza for Leawood on Friday for a $765 million project.
The only thing I can think of is if he's following what Phil Levota said on your show earlier, where he's going to say, we're still going to fight. We're going to try to bring them over here.
Listen, he can do that. And maybe if it's not a done deal today, they can get away with that. But, if the deal's done, the deal's done. You don't want to look pathetic if the deal's done and you're like, so you're saying there's a chance.
The ex-lover.
Yeah, I just, Use the Christmas and New Year's holiday to your advantage here if you're Quentin Lucas. Take some time off. Don't run any press conferences. Let it play out. Let Kansas have a victory lap. And then maybe this brings up the possibility of keeping the Royals. I don't know where. I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea. But maybe you can focus all your attention, all your energy, all your incentives, and all your money on baseball. That might work out pretty well, but just lay low right now, John. That's my only bit of advice for the mayor here.
I think you're right about that. But suddenly the Royals like, oh, there's some space next to us?
Yeah. Well,
opposite of what we thought might happen, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
You're right.
Right? The assumption was always if the Chiefs stay, they're going to obviously be where they're at, and the Royals got to go. I mean, I'm not bringing up some rumors on staying at Truman, but
no,
it does open up.
That scenario wasn't available when it was first announced, right?
Yes.
There was no thought that, hey, if the Chiefs don't move, we're leaving.
Yeah.
No, it was, hey, Kauffman Stadium doesn't work for us.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the location.
Correct.
There you go.
That's a good point. Well, we'll have to see how it plays out. It's going to be a fascinating day that will define sports for future generations all over Kansas City. And we'll be following and watching, and we'll be on tomorrow morning, 6 to 10. I know, a lot of people are off this week, and that's fine. I'll be taking some time between Christmas and New Year's as well. But I'm glad I'm here today, and I'm glad I'm here tomorrow, because tomorrow there is going to be a lot to run down on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio. And, of course, if you miss any of the show, it's all up on the podcast as well. Coming up next, we'll talk to Mike Thompson, Kansas State Senator out of Shawnee. I want to touch on this new wind energy news that was announced, but also get to a viral post he wrote about rescheduling marijuana coming up next. There's a lot to get into with Mike Thompson, Kansas State Senator out of Shawnee, is joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. He's also our area energy expert. He was doing that dating back to his time as a meteorologist here in Kansas City. That's really where he made his name. Then he ran for state senate. He's been doing it well for the last several years. Mike, good morning. Merry Christmas week, my friend.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you, Pete. Thank you, sir.
Hey, let me talk to you about this breaking news. The Trump administration announced this morning it would pause leases for 5 wind farms under construction off the East Coast. How many cartwheels has Mike Thompson done this morning?
Yeah, I've been flipping all over the living room here this morning. That's a good. It's a good thing. This is one of the critiques that I had of the big beautiful bill. They should have cut all subsidies to all wind and solar immediately. They allowed that to continue for a little bit of time, and the problem is that's what's been distorting this energy issue in the United States and our inability to address the growing demand for the AI data centers that we're going to have. But yeah, the offshore wind, I think the big thing was it was going to interfere with radar, and we already knew that. The wind farms out here in Kansas, for example, hide tornado vortex signatures, so you can't get a good look at thunderstorms at the lower level because it does interfere with the radar signals. And I think that would also put us at risk for radars not being able to pick up enemy combatants or whatever. There's also the energy issue itself. We're putting an over-reliance on wind and solar, and because you can get an immediate subsidy for that, these big companies are, investing in that instead of investing in reliable base load that we need going forward.
I didn't realize that, and that's you putting on your meteorologist hat, Mike Thompson on KCMO, that the radar for thunderstorms that ultimately produce tornadoes are not as accurate in areas where there is a large wind farm?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Wow.
Absolutely. It creates signals in the radar that can either look like a tornado or hide tornadoes. So you can get a false alarm on a tornado vortex signature from a wind turbine, or it can if it falls in a certain path because of how the Doppler radar works. It can make it harder to evaluate the severity of a thunderstorm and put communities at risk. So, and this is a problem all over Kansas.
Unbelievable. Now, I know before you ran for office, you talked to a lot of folks in rural Kansas and rural Missouri, once again, before you were elected in office. And,
right.
These wind farms in rural parts of our region are really becoming controversial. They've been controversial for years in many of these rural communities. We've got ranchers and farmers whose neighbors are now, basically leasing their land to these companies for a lot of money, but it's hurting them and they don't like it, and the impacts on their business are obviously negative. So do you think the administration can take today's news of halting wind farm construction off the East Coast and apply it to the heartland, or is that too difficult to do?
I think it's going to be tough to do. You've got a lot of these contracts already in place, and that's the thing we always run into when we're writing bills is you can't undo private contracts and make it retroactive. That's illegal. It's unconstitutional. So you can halt it going forward, and I think the best way to do it is just pull the subsidies. Say, hey, this is not in the national, and it's not because again, we know that the amount of energy it's going to take to power these data centers is going to just skyrocket. And they talk about placing the energy sources, generating sources, right next door to the data center, for example, making them buy their own energy, and that's all well and good, but they also have to get the fuel for it. So let's say they build their own gas plant. What they're going to do is increase the demand for gas, natural gas. That will increase the price on everybody else using natural gas around the area. And in fact, like on our AI data bill, which I voted against, and within the bill, it allows for special electrical rates for an AI data center. And that tells me that they really have no desire to build their own generating plant. They don't want to be in the generating business. They want to be in the AI data business. And so they're going to get special rates from Evergy or whoever they happen to be in the territory for. And everybody else is going to pick up the cost. And plus there will be transmission line costs, which are already skyrocketing. So it's just a ballooning problem that's going to get worse over the next 5 to 10 years.
Unbelievable. Mike Thompson's here on KCMO. All right, Mike, I want to spend a couple of minutes with you on a viral post you put up on Facebook knocking the Trump administration for rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug where it was in with cocaine and heroin to Schedule 3, which is like testosterone and Tylenol and things like that. What is your biggest critique of that rescheduling announcement last week by the president, and why?
Well, Trump gets some things very, very right, and he gets some things wrong. And on this one, it's very, very wrong. There was the development of Epidiolex and Marinol, which are two THC-based drugs, which are used to handle seizures and pain, that were approved while it was a Schedule 1 drug. But we're not talking about actual drugs. We're talking about marijuana plant being used as medicine, and it has never passed a clinical trial. And it's been tried time and time again. Never. In fact, I've held numerous hearings in my committee because I have to deal with that issue up at the State House. And we have scientists and doctors come in and testify to the dangers of marijuana, the plant and all of its derivatives and things like that. And we have law enforcement talking about all the problems. We have everybody, and they can present white papers and research and to back all their data. On the other side, when the marijuana industry comes in to testify, it's all anecdotal evidence based on somebody saying, well, it helps me with pain, it helps me with seizures, it helps me with this, or it helps me with that, or PTSD. But there's never any research that is verified that they bring. It's just, hey, this helps me, and you got to do this.
Well, let me ask you, Mike. Isn't and I'm torn on this one, but isn't part of the point here to get it rescheduled so that there can be more research that is done to figure out the pros and cons of this medically, meaning marijuana?
No, because like I said, there's already medicines derived from marijuana that have been developed while it was Schedule 1. So it's not that's just a marketing talking point.
But how long ago was that?
It's been ongoing. There's never been the marijuana industry, if they wanted to turn it into research or medicine, they've got tons and tons of money. It's legal in 48 states. What they're just trying to do is push it to the next level. This is the next step in legalizing marijuana use for everybody. And the problem is there's all the violence. There's the fact that the THC levels continue to climb. There's the psychosis, all these different problems that are verified and documented from the use. So it's not like it's not being studied. It is being studied. It has been studied. Descheduling does not allow for any more study, and it's not going to change the science on things. That's what I think people don't realize. And the Trump administration bought into the marketing of what they were being told by the cannabis industry. This is a for-profit. It would be like saying, I could go down a path and have a long discussion. Bottom line is they are ignoring the science. They're doing this for reasons of political pressure and probably money somewhere along the line.
So, a lot of people obviously look at it and they say, well, are there marijuana-based medical solutions that are better than addictive pills pushed by Big Pharma? Do you think that could be part of an answer here for millions of Americans dealing with pain and things like that?
Well, there already are, and they are approved by the FDA. There's 3 of them. Like I said, the Epidiolex and the Marinol, those already exist, and those are THC-based, but without the impurities. That's the thing. They go through the FDA process, and they have to be proven to be pure and safe. But the marijuana plant is not. The marijuana plant contains a lot of heavy metals, molds, everything else. So, there's dosage issues with it because there's so many different versions of the cannabinoids within the plant. And that research has been done time and time again, and it's always failed as a medicine. Rescheduling is not going to change that science. I've got a book here at home that was written by several doctors on it, and it talks about the varieties of toxins and things that the marijuana plant has. To pass the FDA test, it has to be purified, it has to be safe, and marijuana cannot pass that test.
Mike Thompson, Kansas State Senator, is here on KCMO Talk Radio. So I do have to ask you, Mike, just because of obviously what the big news of the day is, and that's around the Chiefs potentially announcing they're coming across the state line. You're a Republican. You've been very skeptical on these star bonds. What do you make of what could be coming down the pipeline today?
Well, it sounds sort of like a fait accompli to me. I'll be interested to see what the LCC comes up with this afternoon, and what the final results are going to be. But, that's just the first step. If they do come to Kansas, then what is the Star Bond District going to look like? Who does it, who gets roped into the district? And that's been a big concern of mine all along, in that, there might be, let's say they come to Wyandotte or Johnson County, and both counties become the Star Bond District. There are businesses who will then be paying, their excess sales tax revenue toward the building of the stadium. But again, that only addresses the construction. It doesn't address the problems with maintenance long term, the infrastructure, and all the other things that go along with that. None of that was defined in the bill, which is why I voted against the bill. The bill was so ambiguous. It left a lot of things to the imagination, and I'm afraid that, like you've said, what it's going to do is displace sales tax revenues, and these cities are going to have to make it up by increasing property tax or sales tax to pay for it. We saw that in Jackson County, and the other issue to me is that, unfortunately, I've been a fan of the Chiefs and Royals for years, but they are a business, and their best interest is with the business, and they have no allegiance to the taxpayers of the state. And so, in 10 years, 15 years, when they need improvements to that stadium, they're going to come back to the taxpayer when they have the money to do it themselves. And, if we're going to fix the economic issues for the future generations of this country, we've got to stop handing out taxpayer dollars and level the playing field and lower taxes for everybody so everybody can enjoy the benefits. But if we continue to pick winners and losers, and that's the only way that we see economic development happening in this country, we are never going to fix it. Our kids will be debt slaves, and that's people think I'm anti-develop, I'm anti this, anti that. I just see the truth for what it is. We've been mortgaging the future of our kids for years, and at some point you have to stand up and say, this has to stop. And this is a big deal. This is a lot of money, and it's just one more thing that we add to the pile.
That is so well said. It is something that I am intrigued by. We may not learn it today, what exactly the Star Bond District is going to look like, but you're right, because that is going to have a major impact in, as you know, as someone who's in the legislature, the future of the state's budget. If suddenly you're reallocating future sales tax revenues away from the state budget into a stadium to the tune of billions of dollars, right?
Right. How do we, we actually are considering how to lower property tax. Now, we can't do that much at the state level. We just have the 20 mills. However, we do, because counties are statutory home rule. So we can tell counties what to do to some degree. We try not to, because we want to let them solve their own problems at the local level. The cities are a different story. They are constitutional home rules, so they have a little more latitude. the only way we can pass a law that impacts them is to be uniform across all cities. So those are the two problems we continually wrestle with at the state level. But there's a possibility, and some states are considering this, eliminating property tax altogether, which I think is right, because you can never own your own home. You have no chance, and I believe it could be argued that it's unconstitutional that the government can charge you rent even when you own your own home, which is essentially what's happening.
Well, get that going, and Mike. Get that going, Mike, and I'll write you in for governor next year. Okay?
Well, I'm believe it or not, it's being discussed. But the trick is, how do you got to replace the revenues?
Yeah.
You got to replace the revenues. How do you do it in a manner that is not going to balloon down the path somewhere along the line? I think there are ways to do it.
You know, too, Mike, these cities and counties are spending. I mean, they're out of control on the spending front, and I don't know what you do about that, but it's nuts. I got to run, but I'll leave you with this. I saw something funny the other day. It made me think about this Chiefs-Royals conversation. The question was posed as follows: what is something that is cool if you're rich, but not cool if you're poor? And the answer: government subsidies.
Yeah, amen, brother.
There you go.
Amen, brother.
There you go. Mike Thompson, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Pete.
You too. Mike Thompson on KCMO, right? I mean, it's true. Everyone's like, oh, boy, poor people on Medicaid and, handouts from the government, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I feel that way. I mean, we should have a safety net, but people living off government subsidies, no, 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 no. But when it comes to sports teams and things like that, we're like, oh, that's awesome. It's great. Sports, woo. All right. Speaking of that, Mark's buddy said something beyond bizarre to him that I've got to bring up coming up next.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, Mark, I got some beef with your buddy here. I think he's oversimplifying things a little bit, but you're out the other night. You're hanging out at Johnny's right off Ridgeview, K10 in Olathe. There are reports that, of course, that could be in the area of the future home of, let's say, a Chiefs training facility, corporate office, whatever it might be. Those are some of the rumors out there, right?
Yeah.
So your buddy says to you as you're hanging out at Johnny's there that he can't wait to give his tax money to something he supports. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said he's going to be excited to go to Johnny's and see that tax money go into the Chiefs now in a few years. Paying off those star bonds, right?
Okay. Well, it would depend. I don't want to get nuanced here on this, but, let's just say, and I'm just making up a number to make it a nice round number. Let's say Johnny's pays the state of Kansas, I don't know, $50,000 a year in taxes. And it's probably high, but whatever. I'm just throwing the number out there. Maybe it's not high. I don't know. And then next year, they pay the state of Kansas. They're supposed to pay the state of Kansas $55,000 in taxes. That extra $5,000 would then be used based on the star bond rules to help pay off the bonds on the stadium. So there would be no new taxes, of course, additional sales taxes for you and your buddy when you go, slobber down some burgers and beers at Johnny's. But you could theoretically say that if Johnny's has a better year than they had the year prior, if their sales tax revenues do increase overall to the state of Kansas, then instead of going to Kansas, they would go to pay off a stadium. But your buddy's bigger beef should be with the waste of money at the state level. That's where you still can have some beef. But if it makes him feel better and sleep well at night, spending more money on more beer at Johnny's to pay off the stadium, then I guess that's a win for everybody, right? That's what it's all about. News in 2 minutes. We got a half hour until Keatsman Uncanceled at 10.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
No. It's not on Mayor Lucas. It's not. On the text line, Pete, if the Chiefs announce they're leaving today for Kansas, it is absolutely on Quinton Lucas. If the Chiefs were staying, Lucas would take credit. Okay, well, that's got nothing to do with it. Just because Quinton Lucas would take credit doesn't mean he would be deserving of credit. It is true that if the Chiefs announced they were staying at Truman Sports Complex, Mayor Lucas would be like, yes, look at what I've done. Oh, boy, we saved the team. Yes, there's no doubt he would take a victory lap. And a lot of it would have absolutely nothing to do with him. In fact, you could make a strong case that a lot of it would be in spite of the operations of Kansas City, Missouri city government. Its inability to rein in crime, the blight issues, the earnings tax where you got to pay 1% to the city just to work or live there. It would be in spite of it. But that's not a reason to say that it's his fault if they leave. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's not a top reason they're leaving, but he definitely would not have been a top reason they're staying, even if he would have taken a victory lap. This texter says, also, Lucas just lost Lockton, which is huge. He is a horrible mayor. He is the reason. You are on the wrong side of this issue, Pete. Lockton's a different deal. Lockton announced that it is leaving the Country Club Plaza for Leawood in a $765 million deal. They will be the anchor at a 34-acre development at the northwest corner of State Line Road and College Boulevard. Construction will begin in 2026. Lockton employees could move into a new 12-story, 444,000-square-foot office building in 2030. That you can absolutely point to the mayor on. You can absolutely point to city council. You can point to the crime on the plaza. You can point to all of those things for why Lockton would want to leave Kansas City, Missouri for Leawood. That's absolutely true. But this Chiefs deal has been more handled on the statewide level, and Truman Sports Complex is largely protected from some of the incompetency that exists in city government because they're basically on their own island. Now, I've wondered, and you wonder if something like a bullet going through Andy Reid's office last year at whatever that was, 4 a.m, was maybe a final straw where they were like, this city is totally out of control and we can't do business here anymore. Maybe one day we'll find that out. But outside of that, a lot of the issues that Kansas City, Missouri faces and deals with and is unable to solve don't have to do with the operations out at the Truman Sports Complex. They do if you're a business on the plaza, but it's really two different situations and scenarios there, John, are they not?
Oh, I'm with you, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't feel like I was off base on that one. Listen, I know there's a lot of people who want to dance on the political grave of Quinton Lucas. I guess the difference with me, too, is like Quinton Lucas's political future has largely been dead for a long time. He can't run for Congress against Mark Alford unless he wants to make himself into a sacrificial lamb on behalf of the Democrat Party. There's nothing statewide he can do. I mean, like, his political future has basically been sealed for the last 2-3 years at this point to me. So I don't view this as like, Mayor Q, his failures on full display with the Chiefs and the Royals. I just don't see it that way.
No, not at all. I mean, so we pointed out the county and the local issues are two different things.
Exactly.
Right? Because the mayor comes out and he's public and he's around, he's on several radio stations, maybe he's just the popular lightning rod for a lot of people because, that Mayor Lucas, hey, where are you calling from? Prairie Village. More criticism comes from outside the surrounds, if you will. As the mayor says, than anything. And so it's like he's a lightning rod because he's out there.
I'm not denying that he does bring some of this on himself. He does put himself in the crosshairs.
He goes to all the games, all the Super Bowls. He's in the parade, so that too.
Yes, and he does like to take credit as the overlord and the mayor.
Nobody's saying, how come Sharice David didn't do anything, right? Because you don't see her here and you don't think of her.
Yes.
You think of Quinton because he's on every week. He's on several stations.
That's why he should not do a press conference today at 4 o'clock. if Laura Kelly announces, which is what is expected today, that the Chiefs are signed, sealed, and delivered to Kansas, which I can't imagine she would do a press conference to say they're thinking about it, right? I've got to imagine this is a done deal. Quentin coming out an hour later, what the heck's he going to say? There's nothing he can say. It's going to be beneficial. It's Christmas week. A lot of people are tuned out. They've left town. They're hanging out with family. They're checking out. They know this is coming, but they're kind of out of their typical routines and news cycles, and kids are not in school and things like that. Just stay out of the way till the new year, man. I mean, that's the best thing Quentin Lucas can do.
Saw a great meme about the mayor's Christmas tree was going to relocate to Overland Park in 2027.
Phil Levota, Jackson County Executive. Does he have an 11th hour pitch from the Royals? We will find out and tell you more next.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, we know that today at 3 o'clock, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly is having a special announcement that is believed to be tied to the future specifically of the Kansas City Chiefs. We now welcome on and say good morning to Phil Levota. He is the interim Jackson County Executive, took over that role a few weeks ago, and he's been busy. He's been largely doing right by the taxpayer, and now he's got to figure out how he can try to keep specifically the Kansas City Chiefs at the Truman Sports Complex. He's joining us on 95.7 FM. Phil, good morning. I mean, it feels like we're at the 11th hour of this thing, but where are you at right now as you sit here on a Monday morning and wait to see what today brings?
Good morning, Pete. I want to make sure what we talk about the 11th hour is Kansas 11th hour. They're scrambling to put something together with a week left of the Kansas Star Bonds being eligible. The state of Missouri has been working on this for years. I think you had the governor on your show months ago talking about all the things, the partnership between the state of Missouri, Jackson County, Kansas City, and the people of Jackson County. So there's no 11th hour business for us. The Kansas City Star keeps saying this is a last-ditch effort from the county. We've been talking to the Chiefs for months. They know our proposal. We decided just to get out in front of it after the noise of going on with Kansas, and we wanted to talk about it last week. This stuff in Kansas, there's no specifics to it. There's no details. There's no meat. It's just, hey, we got a shiny, bright new stadium. We hope the Chiefs jump on this without looking into the details.
So you don't feel like today is the end? You think today is more of just like a, hey, the Chiefs meet Kansas's deadline. If they go to Kansas, then this is what they would do. But you fully expect Jackson County to be back at the negotiating table in the not-too-distant future.
We're definitely still in the negotiation. Here's what happened. I'll be honest with you. They could show up today and find a deal that is just too good to be true and snap it up. But they could also look at it and say, okay, thank you. Now we have to agree to have an incentive or say we're going to possibly use these funds and enter an agreement to use the funds. Doesn't mean it's done. There are several people in Topeka saying, we can't do this. It's not a good deal. But there are politicians who are running for governor and running for stuff said, we need to sign this up. We need to get this thing done. It helps me politically. I think the people of Kansas are not being served well because they don't know what's going on. They don't know the specifics. And the Star Bonds aren't the greatest thing in the world. The Speedway has not paid off their Star Bonds in 20 years, 25 years. So I would love to see what Kansas is doing, and maybe I'd comment better to say, yeah, that is a good deal for the Chiefs. But no one knows. So this 11th hour for Kansas, trying to get something done in the last week before the Star Bonds expire, they're doing the last-ditch effort. When over here in Jackson County, state of Missouri, we've been open and transparent with the team. We've been talking to them. The team likes our proposals, but of course they're going to listen to Kansas today.
Mm-hmm. So what about, I know that there are some things about Missouri that are not getting enough attention right now, where Missouri can offer the Chiefs upwards of $600 million in federal tax benefits that Kansas structurally cannot match. And my understanding is that some of this is tied to the passing of the big, beautiful bill earlier this year by the Trump administration. What is that?
There are some amazing details that the team has not looked at, and we're sharing with them today about federal tax incentives, federal tax credits, and the possibility of a dome. So we want to make sure the team has everything they need because they're being rushed and they're being pressured. And, that's coming from the team themselves saying, we're getting a hard, aggressive sell here with the last week from Kansas. So there are a lot of things that the Chiefs would lose by moving away from Arrowhead that they haven't considered yet. And those are some of these federal tax incentive, federal tax credits that are only available in Missouri, and Kansas, it's not available.
So are you hoping to get in front of the team with that information before any potential decision comes down today?
They're going to get it. They're going to hear from me. They're going to hear this detailed. I have some letters this morning with some specific details, not just pie in the sky, some actual numbers that are $250 million or $500 million in incentives and credits that are available right now only because of the location of where Arrowhead is. And those will be left on the table if they go to Kansas. So I'm going to make sure the team has it before they walk into any meeting in Topeka.
Okay, so you want those letters. You're going to get those letters to the Chiefs before they get to Topeka today and potentially sit down or will sit down for that meeting. So have you had any conversations of note in the last few days, or has it been relatively quiet for you?
I am on a daily either phone conversation or text string with the Chiefs, and I know what they're going through, and I understand the business of them having to listen to what's going on in Kansas, and I respect it. I don't accept it, but I respect it, and we won't give up in Missouri about pushing the best plan for the Kansas City Chiefs for their future.
Phil Levota is the interim county executive for Jackson County, joining us on 95.7 FM. Of course, there is the big meeting today in Topeka, 3 o'clock, expected to be some kind of an announcement from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. So what about the fact that the one thing that Kansas does seem to have a leg up over Missouri on is that nothing they do needs to go to a vote of the public, at least nothing statewide with the Star Bond. Who knows if there's a local component on this? But that does seem to be an attractive option at a time when it seems like voters, not just in Jackson County, but we've seen this sort of around the country, there's not a great appetite to give tax dollars to sports teams in this current climate from Republicans or Democrats. And how much do you think Missouri's behind the eight ball when it comes to that part of the equation?
Well, you're exactly right, but two things. Number one, we don't know what happens in Kansas. The Star Bonds would pay for 70% of the funding for the new stadium. The teams and or someone else will have to come up with the funds to finish it up and to maintain it. There's no component and no details about that. Over in Missouri, we do have that. We have the 1/4-cent sales tax, the 3/8-cent sales tax right now that Jackson County or anyone who buys something in Jackson County has been paying for 50 years. And the only component that our issue has before the voters is to reduce that. To reduce it from 3/8 cents to 1/4 cent and make it just for the Chiefs. You're so right about the appetite of people wanting to spend tax dollars for stadiums. And that's what I don't think can happen in Kansas. I'm concerned about anything in North Kansas City for the Royals. But in Jackson County, we've been paying it at 3/8 cents. And we're going to reduce it for 1/4 cent. So that's what the voters look at. And I'm confident the people of Jackson County will say, okay, we're lowering taxes and we're keeping the Chiefs for something we're already paying. I think that sells in contrast to bringing a brand new tax issue in front of the voters.
And you want to get that on the ballot as soon as what? April would be your ideal time?
Yep, April would be it.
Okay. And that is something that you would have to vote on as a Jackson County legislature by when?
It could be done next week. It could be done the first week of January. The Jackson County legislature, I've taken the temperature of them, and they're all the biggest Chiefs fans in the world, and they understand keeping the Chiefs is important. The Royals are going to leave, and keeping the Chiefs is important to our community, and we don't want to lose them out at Arrowhead and have an empty stadium, empty sports complex. So they're going to vote on it, and we'll have enough votes in the legislature to get that on the ballot. We'll run a simple, transparent campaign, and it's simple. And we'll tell the voters, here's what we're doing. There's no hiding behind anything. There's no location movement. There's no displaced people. That's what happened 2 years ago. People want to bring up that debacle from 2 years ago. That wasn't not one mention of the Chiefs not being positive. It was the Royals part of it that screwed that up. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants the Chiefs to stay, and that wins. That wins at the ballot box.
Well, you're right. Yeah, that Chiefs were largely collateral damage on that deal 2 years ago. You're right about that. But did I just hear you say, with the Royals leaving, are you acquiescing and basically saying that you feel like the Royals are done in Jackson County no matter what happens here today?
No, not in the least. I'm saying to the contrary. I don't think the people of north of the river want to put on a ballot to tax themselves to increase a new Royal Stadium. And I think in Jackson County, we still can do that and help them keep them in Jackson County. So no, by no means does that mean I'm acquiescent. The Royals need to be in Jackson County too.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, the other thing that it seems like Missouri's behind the eight ball with compared to Kansas is not just lack of a vote on the Kansas side, but also the dome issue. We know that there is an appetite for bigger events, indoor events, whatever that might look like. Do you see a lane, and what potentially is it to give the Chiefs what they might be looking for on that front?
The Chiefs' conversation with us have never been, we need a dome. The dome is a lot of people, we like a dome, the people. If the Kansas City Chiefs want to put a dome over Arrowhead, we're going to listen, we're going to help them. And some of these tax credits and incentives, there's up to $250 million that we can get for them to heat it. Because what we're thinking about in Kansas, they didn't think about, they have to air condition and heat that thing. And there's no money in Star Bonds for that. So that millions and millions of dollars every month and every year to do that is something that is not on the table. So I guess my point is if the Kansas City Chiefs want to put a dome at Arrowhead, we're on board to fix our proposal and address that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Phil Levota, last thing, just, you're sitting here on a Monday morning. Everyone's kind of waiting to see what the day brings. How are you feeling? As much as you just walked into this big situation, this is no reflection on you, but you stepped into this a few weeks ago. How are you feeling right now?
This is big generational decisions from the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, and they don't happen quickly. And something can happen today that could be changed within a couple days. So I don't think anything's done today. I think we're going to hear that the Chiefs have looked and listened, and then hopefully we'll have some specifics from it. So I can't really answer that until we get some transparency out of the Kansas government and tell us what's going on with it. So I'm still hopeful. I still believe that when I talk to the Chiefs, they're open with me. They're honest with me. I understand they're going to look at everything as business, but I still think that Jackson County's been their home for so long. Arrowhead Stadium is the most iconic stadium in all of professional sports, and I think that weighs heavy on them and the fan base of leaving. So I'm still confident that we still have the ability to keep them at Arrowhead.
All right. Phil Levota, he is the interim Jackson County executive on KCMO. Phil, always appreciate your time on KCMO Talk Radio. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. There you go. Phil Levota on 95.7 FM. And that wraps it up for us on a Monday morning. Have a great rest of your day. Keatsman has a loaded show on a Monday. He is here. Coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, and stream us all morning long if you're at home, off of work, on your Alexa, Google, or the KCMO Talk Radio app.